At 11:47 p.m., your phone lights up. You almost ignore it. Then, you see the message. Tomorrow. Market crash. Minus 38.7%. You refresh the screen. Still there. You check the news. Nothing. The market is calm. Millions of people are sleeping. But you know something they don't. Tomorrow morning, the stock market is going to crash. Not a small correction. A collapse. The kind that destroys retirement accounts, wipes out savings, and changes people's lives. And somehow, you're the only person who knows. The question is not whether you can make money from it. You can. The question is, what would you do if saving yourself meant watching everyone else lose everything? The first thing you do is laugh, because your brain refuses to believe it. You close the app. Open it again. The message is still there. You look at your investment account. $87,432.16. Years of saving. Years of saying no to expensive things. And tomorrow, that number could fall by almost 40%. You could sell everything tonight. Move to cash. Wait for the crash. Then buy back cheaper. In theory, you could become significantly richer. But what if you're wrong? The market has been predicted to crash thousands of times. Most people were wrong. So, you call your best friend. You tell him. You're overthinking this. Maybe he's right. The streets are quiet. The lights are on. People are sleeping, somewhere. Someone is checking their retirement account for the last time before the biggest financial disaster of their life. Nobody knows. Except you. At 1 a.m., you call your mother. She has spent 40 years building her retirement. You know what a 38% crash could do to her. You tell her. Maybe you should move some money into cash. She asks why. You can't say, because I saw the future. So you say, I just have a feeling. She laughs. Your father once had a feeling about cryptocurrency. You both laugh. But after the call ends, you realize something. You have information that could protect your family. But if you tell them, you become responsible for whatever decision they make. And suddenly, you understand. Information is not the same as control. The next morning, the market opens. For a few seconds, nothing happens. You begin to think. You were wrong. Then the screen refreshes. Minus 2%. Another refresh. Minus 5%. The news changes. The market drops again. Minus 19%. Then, minus 31. Your $87,000 is disappearing in front of you. And now, you understand the real problem. You could save yourself. You could sell everything. But millions of other people are losing their retirement savings. Your friend calls. Should I sell? Your mother calls. What should I do? And you have to decide. Do you tell them the truth? You tell your mother, don't sell. She asks, are you sure? You say, no. Because that's the truth. You know what happens today. You don't know what happens next week. You don't know how long the recovery takes. You don't know if something worse comes next. So you don't sell everything. You protect some cash. And then, you start buying, slowly, carefully. Not because you know the future anymore. Because you don't. That night, the market closes down exactly. 38.7%. You were right. You could have sold everything. You could have made a fortune. But you didn't. 3 months later. The market is still down. Your portfolio is worth less than before. You begin wondering if you were ever actually smarter than everyone else. Then one morning, your phone lights up again. Another message. Another date. Another number. Plus 52.4%. The market is going to explode upward. You stare at the screen. You could invest everything. You could become incredibly rich. Then, you notice one final line. This is the last prediction you will ever receive. You read it again. Then another line appears. You have been receiving these predictions for one reason. You wait. The message continues. To see what you would do with certainty. And suddenly, you understand. The real test was never the market. It was never the crash. It was never about becoming rich. Because knowing exactly what the market will do tomorrow still doesn't tell you who to trust, when to stop, how much is enough, or what kind of person you become. When you believe you cannot lose. The next morning, you open your investment account. You don't sell everything. You don't bet everything. You simply invest what you can afford to leave alone. And for the first time, you understand something. You don't need to know what you will do when it does.